By every rule of evolution, this animal should not exist. It has 3 hearts. Its blood runs blue instead of red. It can taste the world through its own skin, change the color and texture of its entire body in less than a second, and think with something other than its brain. In fact, most of its brain isn't even in its head. Meet the octopus. One of the biologists who studied it most closely simply called it an alien. So how did an animal like this come to exist at all? And after hundreds of millions of years of predators, disasters, and mass extinctions, how is it still here? To answer that, we have to go back to a version of this animal that looked nothing like it does now. One with a hard shell. And no reason to ever give it up. Octopuses belong to a group called cephalopods, along with squid and cuttlefish, and their oldest relatives were shelled mollusks, not unlike the ancestors of modern snails and clams. For millions of years, that shell was everything. Armor, shelter, survival. Then, deep in the past, one branch of that family did something that should have been a death sentence. It gave up the shell completely. In open water, a soft body with no armor is an easy meal. So why would evolution favor losing it? The answer is freedom. A body with no shell, and eventually no bones at all, can bend, stretch, and squeeze in ways a rigid body never could. For the octopus, that trade became one of the best decisions evolution ever made. Today, an octopus is almost entirely soft tissue. The only hard part of its whole body is its beak, tucked where its arms meet. If that beak can fit through a gap, the rest of the octopus can follow. Which means an octopus the size of a basketball can pour its entire body through a hole barely wider than a coin. But losing a skeleton created a new problem. Without a rigid frame to help push blood around, how do you keep oxygen flowing to every arm, every organ, every cell? Evolution's answer was almost absurd. Build more hearts. An octopus has 3. 2 smaller hearts push blood through its gills to collect oxygen. A third, larger heart then pumps that oxygen-rich blood through the rest of the body. And that blood isn't red. It runs pale blue, because instead of the iron-based protein in human blood, octopus blood uses a copper-based protein called hemocyanin. That copper-based blood works well in cold water and low oxygen, which is part of why octopuses can thrive in the freezing dark of the deep ocean floor. But there's a catch. When an octopus swims, its main heart briefly stops beating. Swimming is so exhausting for an octopus that most of them would rather crawl. No bones? 3 hearts? Blue blood. That alone would make this one of the strangest animals on Earth. But its body isn't even the strangest part. Its mind is. An octopus has somewhere around 500 million neurons, in the same range as a dog. Here's the twist. Only about a third of those neurons are packed into its brain. The rest, nearly 2/3, are spread through its 8 arms. Each arm has its own dense cluster of nerves, almost like a small brain of its own. It can taste what it touches. It can react to danger. It can reach for food without waiting for instructions from the brain at all. In laboratory studies, a severed octopus arm has been shown to still move, still reach, and still respond to touch, because it was never entirely under the brain's control to begin with. Which raises a question scientists still don't have a full answer to. When an octopus solves a problem, whose decision is it? The brain's or one of its arms? Maybe that split mind is exactly why octopuses are so good at solving problems. In laboratories, they've learned to twist open jars to reach food sealed inside. They've solved mazes through trial and error. In aquariums around the world, they've been documented escaping their own tanks at night, squeezing through drain pipes to raid a neighboring tank, then quietly returning home before morning. Staff at some aquariums have even reported octopuses treating certain visitors differently from others, a level of individual recognition rarely seen outside large-brained mammals and birds. And that intelligence shows up most vividly on their skin. An octopus's skin holds thousands of tiny pigment sacs called chromatophores, wired directly into its nervous system. Because the connection is neural instead of chemical, an octopus can shift its entire pattern in less than a second, matching the color and pattern of the rock, coral, or sand around it. Underneath that layer sit reflective cells that can bend light into blues and greens, and beneath those, tiny muscles that can raise the skin into spikes and ridges to fake the texture of coral or bark. Here's the part that still genuinely puzzles scientists. Octopus eyes appear to be colorblind. They likely have only one type of light receptor, which should make matching colors close to impossible. So how does a colorblind animal become one of the best color-matching camouflage artists in the ocean? Researchers have two competing explanations, and neither is fully confirmed. One is that light-sensitive proteins scattered across the octopus's own skin let it sense color without needing eyes at all. The other is that the strange off-center shape of its pupil splits light apart as it enters the eye, letting the octopus judge color the way a prism does. Nobody is certain which explanation is right, or whether both play a part. It remains one of the open mysteries of octopus biology. One species pushes camouflage even further. The mimic octopus doesn't just match its background, it imitates other animals entirely, flattening and contorting its arms to resemble a venomous lionfish, a flatfish gliding across the seabed, or a banded sea snake, depending on which predator happens to be watching. It was actually while studying mimic octopuses off the coast of Indonesia that scientists stumbled onto something even stranger nearby. A different species, the veined octopus, was collecting coconut shell halves discarded by fishing communities, stacking them together and hauling them across the open seafloor, using its arms as makeshift stilts, only to assemble them into an instant shelter later when danger appeared. It's one of the only confirmed examples of tool use in any invertebrate on the planet. When camouflage and tools aren't enough, an octopus has one more trick. It can release a cloud of ink built from the same dark pigment found in human hair, laced with a compound that can sting a predator's eyes and dull its sense of smell. It isn't poison. It's a smokescreen, just long enough to disappear. When hunting rather than hiding, an octopus relies on stealth and a paralyzing bite, injecting venom through its beak to subdue prey before it can escape. Every octopus alive is venomous to some degree. In most species, that venom barely bothers a human. There's one striking exception. The blue-ringed octopus, small enough to fit in your palm, carries a toxin strong enough to kill a person, with no antivenom available. Its only warning is beautiful and simple. Electric blue rings flashing across its skin. With a mind like this, capable of tools, memory, recognition, and outsmarting aquarium staff, you might expect an octopus to live for decades, passing on everything it has learned. Instead, most octopuses live for about a year, maybe two. Their ending is as strange as everything else about them. After mating, a female octopus lays thousands upon thousands of eggs, then stops eating almost entirely. For weeks, sometimes months, She guards them, cleanses them, and fans them with oxygen-rich water. Then, shortly after they hatch, she dies. It isn't illness. It's a hormonal process, triggered by a gland behind her eye that switches on a kind of built-in countdown the moment she reproduces. Her offspring never meet her. They hatch into the open ocean completely alone, with no one to teach them anything. Every single thing an octopus ever learns dies with it. All of that intelligence, the memory, the problem-solving, the tool use has to be reinvented from nothing in every single generation in under 2 years. Zoom out far enough and the strangeness only grows. The eyes of an octopus and the eyes of a human look remarkably alike. A lens, an iris, a retina, even though our two lineages split apart from a simple, eyeless ancestor over 500 million years ago. Complex eyes and something resembling a complex mind appear to have evolved twice on this planet, independently, through completely different paths. After reviewing hundreds of scientific studies on cephalopod cognition, the UK changed its own animal welfare law to formally recognize octopuses as sentient beings, a rare moment where science and legislation agreed there might be someone home behind those strange horizontal pupils. Even their genetic code refuses to behave the way it should. An octopus's genome contains more protein-coding genes than a human's, over 33,000 of them, largely because evolution duplicated and rearranged genes involved in building and wiring neurons in ways barely seen anywhere else in the animal kingdom. Octopuses also edit their own genetic instructions on the fly, adjusting proteins inside their nervous system without ever changing their underlying DNA. Nobody fully understands why or how much it shapes their fast, strange minds. So look at what we're left with. An animal with no shell and no bones, protected by nothing but speed and disguise. 3 hearts and blue blood built for a cold, crushing world. A mind split across 9 separate parts that somehow still moves, hunts, and solves problems as one. Camouflage precise enough to fool predators, built by an animal that may not even see color. Enough intelligence to use tools, recognize faces, and break out of a locked tank, with barely enough lifespan to use any of it, and no way to pass a single lesson on to the next generation. None of it follows the slow, cautious rules evolution usually seems to write. And yet, in oceans all over the world, right now, it's working. Octopuses shouldn't exist. Not like this. Not with a body that breaks nearly every rule evolution usually relies on. But they do. And maybe that's the real lesson hiding inside this animal. Evolution doesn't follow just one blueprint. Every so often, it starts over completely and builds a mind from nothing in a shape nobody could have predicted. Somewhere on the ocean floor right now, one is changing color, solving a problem no one taught it how to solve. Running on a clock that ends in under 2 years, its mind spread across 9 separate parts that still, somehow, think as one.